Hey, Louise here, and I have a dilemma. What do you do when you have extra fat quarters and extra pieces of fat quarters and all these beautiful Christmas fabrics and scraps and pieces and oh, don't forget the jelly rolls. I thought I need to do something, and what comes to mind? But a scrappy rag quilt. Have you ever made scrappy squares for your rag quilt? Oh my gosh, it gets even better. You can use leftover fabrics, you can use orphan squares, but you know what? We're going to offset our seams. This makes it even easier. So we have a beautiful back, also with some pieces. Look at this. Oh my gosh, jelly roll strips. We're doing it all, and in one quilt. Stick around, I'm going to show you how to do this. It's 7 p.m. and it's pouring outside. What am I going to do but make a quilt? The trick is I want it done by tomorrow, so I have to go with what I already have. And remember I showed you about all the pre-cuts I did with my Christmas fabric. I have 22 10-inch squares, so I am going to make a rag quilt with 10-inch squares. And I have enough of this, which is the backing, for 12 squares. And this is what I'm going to use in the middle of my blocks. It's just a nice heavyweight cotton instead of batting. And that way because I find rag quilts are too hot for us here in Georgia with the batting. So I generally just put cotton. Sometimes I'll just use the front cotton along with flannel on the back because that works too. But I'm thinking I need 30 because then I can get 5 by 6 and it'll be almost 50 by 60. Think about what do we do with our jelly rolls? We can put 5 strips together and we will get a 10-inch width. And then we can cross-cut that into 4 pieces. So with 2 different sets of 5 colors, I've got another 8. So 22 plus these 8 are going to give me my 30. That's awesome. Now I need extra fabric on the back. See, I had all these scraps because I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to have to piece everything. That's going to take so much time. And then, of course, Phyllis, she got me taken care of here. So I'm good to go. Oh, but look. This is from that last quilt. I got to hang on to that. I might need that for binding. So I can set these strips aside, and we'll come up with some fun mug rugs or something with those. And here's some larger pieces. Oh, this too. I can put some of this in the back as well. And so I've got my front here. I've got my 12, and I can put some stripes back there. And oh, here's another thing. Remember I had this bundle of solids that I bought on Amazon. And I think there may be some colors in here that I can pull to use in there. And they're layer cakes, so they're all 10 inches. I have that, and then I have this. This is the bundle I bought last Christmas, a bundle of scraps off Etsy. And I'm telling you, this is great. And I can use, oh, those are pretty blues, huh? I can use a lot of these and piece them together for some blocks on the back. Because I have my front taken care of. I need to do the back, and I can put some of these together. I think that's going to work. Okay, here's a plan, and you know what else I thought? This is left over from that last potato chip block that was square in a square. I can cut this in half. They're like 6.5 inches halfway, and then put a strip here and here, and just make some fun blocks just to put on the back of the quilt. Okay, I have a plan. I'm going to put this all together. I will be back shortly. The secret is how we put this together. You are going to love this rag quilt quilting hack. It is the best. The beauty of a rag quilt is you can really get away with so much. I am not one to tear my selvages off, but this is a really sturdy cotton. And we used this, I think, a Christmas or 2 ago underneath another tablecloth. Well, I found it, and now it's mine, and I'm using it, and I'm going to just cut. Oh, you know what? I am just going to rip this, but I'm afraid, what if it doesn't rip straight? Okay, you're right. I need to cut this from this point, but the salvage was a good idea. This is one of those moments I have to share, and I'm cutting my 10-inch squares out of my 10-inch strips, and all I had left here are a couple of 5-inch pieces. So I cut them by 10, but I can't make them into a 10-inch block, except that when I cut these, there was enough on the fold. I'm going to have enough to make a seam. And here's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what did I say I had? 16. So there's my 20. Just 10 more, and I'll be able to work that out of some other fabric. Oh my gosh, I love how this goes together. I couldn't possibly unroll these jelly rolls without you being along. Look at, aren't they wonderful? This is such fun. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each bundle of them has 5 different colors. And I'm going to take one of each, sew them in strips, and I have a 10-inch square, and I have 4 of them. This is so perfect. Here are the 5 jelly roll strips that I'm going to be sewing together, and I'll put them in this order. It just was the order that they were in the pack, and I like having the light in the middle and then getting the reds out to the outer side. And what I'm going to do and what I want to show you is that I'm going to sew these 2 together and these 2 together, and then I'll sew both pairs to the center. If I were to start here and sew this one and this one and this one and this one, by the time I got over to the end here, this seam is going to want to take a twist, almost like a little bit of a curve down at the bottom. And that's just the way that strips will sew when you do long straight strips, one right after the other in the same direction. By sewing these 2 and then these 2, that's going to kind of help mix things up and balance how these strips go together. So let me sew these and I'll show you how that's going to work. And here are my first 3 sewn together, with the white being the center. And I'm going to add these here, so each of the black will be on either side of the white, and then the redder ones will be to the outer edge. And I'm just going to sew this 1/4 inch from one end to the other and get everything pressed, and then it's going to be time to put things together. This is coming together wonderfully. And there we are. We have all 5 strips sewn together, and I'm going to press this and we'll start cutting our 10-inch squares, and then we'll layer our blocks for the quilting that we need to do for our rag quilt, and then we're going to put it together. Oh my gosh, this is going together so quickly. Down to the final cutting. Once I get these done, all my blocks, all my squares are cut and ready to go. But it is tomorrow. And I got tired and I started making mistakes. I said, okay, as much as I want to get this done tonight, it'll be tomorrow. But I did have to fess up on that. But it is really going quickly. Before I cut this, there's one thing I want to show you. These are 5 2.5-inch strips. So 2-inch, 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 but these still have seam allowance. So this measures 10 inches and a half. Now, if you've ever made a rag quilt, and I'm guessing if you're watching this, you probably have, or you're interested in making one. Here's one I did, but what I want to show you is your back fabric goes through all 3 layers and wraps around to the front. So when this top fabric lays here and I sew it, it's just laying flat. But when we pull the back layers like this to sew our seam, it wraps around and it takes up a little bit extra fabric. And I have found in the past that I've had trouble sometimes if I'm taking too skimpy a seam, and in between here, I'm not catching that back fabric. It's just barely coming through. So 2 things. Always make sure you take at least a 1/2-inch seam, and, if possible, add a little more. Now, I have never done that intentionally before. This is the first time, which is why I want to share it with you. And the reason being is that this is 10.5 inches. So I thought, well, I'll just cut this by 10 and make sure I do it the right way. It's like, no, 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 no. These are 40+ inch strips. I can cut this at 10.5 to make them square, and then it doesn't matter which way I put it in, it's going to work. And then I'll even have a little strip at the end. So I'm going to cut these at 10.5 inches. And I will show you when I'm actually doing the sewing how well that's going to work. And, you know, I probably should have checked to make sure that this one had the extra, because the salvages on this one were much wider, and I didn't quite have as much fabric. Oh, look at that. I'm going to turn it this way. I am just barely making it. So much so that I'm going to open this and cut it at 10.5 because I don't want to lose anything. All right, so line everything up, and there's my 10-inch. I'll go to 10.5, and just to make sure you're straight and that your fabric is straight, just follow the lines and make sure they're on the seams, and all is good. Okay, let's see, how close are we? Look at that, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, but I'm glad I checked. And those are just little things, you know, you don't think about until the last minute. And hopefully it's that last minute before you cut, not before. So let me show you where we are. Oh my goodness, so much has been done since we last talked. I have 8 of these. These are my backing. And you remember I had 12 of these. So this is my 20, but I needed another 10. So I pulled out scraps and I made some really fun, easy pieces, just adding what I had together. And sometimes there were more pieces than others, but I just did this to create those blocks that I need on the back. And it's going to work beautifully. They're simple. The colors all tie in together, and I am excited. I'm just trying to get this all lined up. Okay, that's the back. Remember, on the side, I'm going to have the half square, or a rectangle, half of my square on the end of the each row on alternating sides, because that's going to be what offsets the seam. And so I have my front fabric. Let's see, no, where am I? Yes, this is the fabric that will go on the front. This is my in-between, instead of batting fabric, it's just all cotton. And then I have my backing, and some of this matches the backing, and then these are just some other fabrics that kind of correspond with it. Okay, so that's all set. Now, this is what really got me excited. You remember I had 22 whole pieces. These are all 10-inch pieces, 22 inches. And so I started kind of putting them together, and these are the ones that I did first because I wanted to, you know, piece them in a bit more interesting way than the backing. And some are simple, but what I did is try to include more patterns. Now, these are the leftover potato chip blocks from that last quilt, the square and the square. And I just cut it in half and added around it. So these are going to be kind of interesting on the front between all these other Christmas prints. And I'm really excited. I have never made a scrappy rag quilt before, and nothing like this. I've, added pieces where I needed to have them, but I never did it intentionally to create a multitude of blocks. So I'm anxious to see how this looks. The interesting part is going to be laying all this out. So I have all that. I have that. Oh, and let's see. I had to get a little creative for the in-between layer, my filling, my batting per se. But it all worked out. So I had these, and remember I was going to sew this together. So I put my 2 strips in that. That way the seam doesn't go right down the middle. And then I used some of this, what I had. I only had a few pieces of scraps. I used that, and then I used some solid batiks that I had. And then these are the ones out of the other solid. So I have 30 of everything, and it's going to be beautiful. So now I'm going to start putting it together. The first thing is to put my layers, a top, a middle, and a back. And remember, the top and back both face to the outside. The middle, it doesn't matter. And I am going to sew an X across everything. That's the next big project. That will hold all the fabrics together. Now, you can kind of go without doing it, but because this is such a large block, these are 10 inches, so it's going to have a finished size of 9 inches. That loose 3 layers of fabric, could get kind of lumpy, bumpy, and who knows what else. I don't like the look of it when I've seen it because I have done that before where I don't do anything in the middle, and it's loose, and it's just like fabric is, laying there and it's not attached to anything, and I don't like that look. I prefer, like, even on these, even though it's only like a 6-inch strip, I'll still do something down the middle just to hold those fabrics together. Which, by the way, this is probably one of the most popular videos for rag quilts because it's so simple. Look at that, just straight strips. Oh my gosh. And make it reversible. So what you use here, you use there, and it just makes a wonderful little baby quilt. It does need another run through the wash because it hasn't fully frayed, and then this will find a home and live happily ever after. In the meantime, this has got to get finished. When I'm getting ready to sew, to secure the blocks, what I like to do is stage them so that they're already put together in the layers that I need. That way I can pick up one, go through, and just chain stitch and do them all. I'll do the first direction, then I'll clip them apart and go back and through and do the other cross. The other thing is I was really torn about what to do with my thread color. Now, a lot of the back has black in it, so I'm going to use a black bobbin. And then I thought, well, I can use black on the top too because there's a lot of dark colors, but there's also probably more white and lighter colors. So I decided to go with a dark gray. Gray is pretty neutral, and even against, a lot of whites like this, it's going to tend to blend in more than a black would. So sometimes keep that in mind when you're doing a rag quilt. We don't always think about what color the thread should be because, a lot of times it's just personal preference. But in this case, I don't want the black to be that dominant in my sewing. So what I'm going to do is just take this one here, and I'm going to start in one corner, and I just use my regular needle and my stitch count at a 2.5. I don't alter anything. The only time I would, particularly with a rag quilt, is if there is batting in here or heavy flannel, because then you want a looser or a longer stitch, because otherwise it'll be too tight and the thread could snap because there's so much fabric tucked in those little stitches. And I'm just going to go from one end to the other, and it's a rectangle, so I just need to kind of aim for the opposite corner. And when I get down here, I just grab my next one and do the same thing. So this goes pretty easily. When I reach the end, I just cut my pieces apart because I'm going to go through on the opposite side. So see, here's the front with the gray, and it's really not that noticeable. And the black, of course, you don't even see it on the back. So I think that's a good choice. That seems to be working for me. And let's see, I've got these two. All right, so now I'm just going to crisscross and go the other way. And then I will repeat this through all of the squares that I need to do. And then it's time to put it together. So this is the part that goes pretty quick. You just need to, kind of tune in and maybe zone out a little and just work through and get them all finished. One quick idea about going through this point where this is crossed over, you know how sometimes bottom fabrics on multiple layers can get bunched up? Just as you're doing it, don't yank and pull, but just hold this taut so that there's no loose fabric just laying there ready to get pulled in. So I just hold this between my thumb and finger because that's where I'm aiming, and then I just bring this across, and then that way I don't have to worry about any wrinkles on the back or tucks. And with the second side all set to go, I have both pieces, or both stitches. What am I trying to say? Both sides of the X sew. I don't even know how to say it. And so I have my 5 pieces, because remember, this is 6 by 5 rows with 30 blocks. And so the 5 rows will each have one of these on opposite corners. And there we are. Okay, now I'll get the big ones done. And before you know it, we're going to be putting this quilt together. But I do need to warn you, once the sewing is done, Then there's the clipping, and that probably takes about the longest time, but it's a great time to watch a movie. I'll show you how that works too. So close to being finished, but you see how these seams are offset? So as you're sewing, you don't have to worry about matching seams, and it makes it so much easier to clip, not to mention how much easier it's going to be after it's washed. You won't have nearly as much trimming because you won't get the knotting. Those corners where the four blocks come together often result in a lot of knotting. And the half pieces on the edge are what allow that offset seam to happen. And so I do it on every other row. We have it here, and then I have them on the other side as well, just like this. And look at that. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, and I can't wait to go put it in the wash and see how it turns out. But let's take a quick look at the back. Both sides look quite festive. There's a lot with the strips here with the jelly rolls that turned out great. It adds so much. And I'll get some pictures of the whole thing laid out after. And the trees are just fun. And then lots of blocks just mixed in. Oh my gosh, a Scrappy Rag Quilt. My first. I'm really excited, and I'm so happy I tried this. I hope you're going to try it too. Take a look at how the front of this quilt turned out. I love it. And you know, those scrappy squares with all the pieces don't really stand out as much as I thought they would. It just all sort of blends together beautifully, and I love it. Now let's take a look at the back of the quilt. This one turned out really neat. I like those Christmas trees. It breaks things up, but the colors and the strips in there, oh wow, this is a winner. I hope you love it, and I hope you enjoyed this quilt. Have a fantastic rest of your day. It's always a pleasure to have you join me here. Thanks so much for watching.